All right, you absolutely love the 5 easy meals for one video I posted last month, and it sounds like you want some more. So today I'm going to share 5 more meals that are quick, easy, and delicious. And it all starts with pantry staples like canned beans, frozen prawns, and pasta, plus a few key ingredients that are going to transform your weeknight dinner into something special. I'm talking about dishes like Arayes, fish tacos, pan-roasted chicken, prawns and black bean sauce, and Amatriciana. These meals, they're easy to pull together and you don't end up with heaps of dirty dishes. And if you've got your own go-to meals for one, then I'd love you to drop them in the comments below. But before we get stuck in, I'd like to thank Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. It's the all-in-one website platform that makes it incredibly easy to showcase your work online. More on that later, let's get stuck in. First up, one of my absolute favorites because they're delicious and they're really easy to pull together, Arayes. So it's basically minced meat. I like lamb, but you can use beef. You could use chicken or turkey, whatever you really wanted to, into a bowl. And then we're gonna season it and we're gonna stuff it into the pita bread. Honestly, if I'm doing this and I'm being really, not lazy, efficient. I'm being efficient with my time. I'll take the onion, I only need half an onion for that amount, and I grate it. I grate it straight in the bowl. And then garlic. You could use the same grater, but it's a bit chunky, so I will use one of these finer ones. I'm gonna go 2 cloves in here. Actually, while we're here, do the garlic and the yogurt too. So raw garlic and yogurt can be really overpowering. I like it garlicky. I will do a whole clove on this, but you can just do half a clove and see how you go, especially if you've not got a date. So a good pinch of salt, fresh ground black pepper, allspice, and a little bit of parsley as well. Again, this is late night cooking. We're not gonna pick the leaves. I'm gonna tear the big pieces of stalk off. I'm gonna fold this bunch on itself and run a knife through it. Then a couple of times the other way, and that goes. So we'll get our pita ready before we mix that, because we're gonna have a dirty hand. Any pitas will work, really. I like these kind of like nice small ones. Cut them in half, and then just kind of work them open so that sometimes they can, supermarket pitas are a bit matte sometimes and they get a bit stale. Doesn't really matter for this dish because they're gonna get fried, but if we can kind of like work them open so that they're good to go once we're ready to fill them. For me, 2 pitas is more than enough with that amount of mince. I think it's a pretty nice, kind of well-rounded meal. Like there is quite a lot of vitamin C in onions. You got your carbs, and obviously we've got lots of protein. Happy days. So the best way to mix this, you can either use a spoon. Honestly, I think the best way to mix anything like this is to use a clean hand. And you just want to mix it enough so everything's well incorporated. If you overmix this, what you do is you start working the fats and the proteins together and it becomes quite bouncy like a sausage, which like certain sausages, which is desirable in some recipes, not in others. For me, I don't think you want it super squishy, like super bouncy, this one. So try not to overmix it. And all I do is flatten it out in the bowl that I'm using and then divide it into 4 even-ish pieces. It doesn't have to be perfect. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we take our pita, take our quarter of our meat, and then all we're gonna do is, using our hand, you kind of want it as evenly spread as possible throughout the whole pita. So get most of it done with your hand in there, and then squeeze it so that it's nice and flat. It doesn't matter that you're getting, this is gonna be cooked, right? So don't stress that you're getting raw meaty stuff on the outside because it's about to go into a hot pan. The reason you want it nice and flat is so that it cooks evenly. You only just wanna cook this meat just through. Put that in the bowl, fill the rest of them. So we've got a clean lemon and clean hands. We've got our yogurt with our garlic. I love lots of yogurt on this. I don't know why, I just kind of like lather it up in it. But then we don't really want the juice, you just want the zest. So the zest of 1 lemon. The reason I don't like the juice in here isn't because of the flavor. I like the yogurt to be nice and thick, and if you add the juice, it just thins it out too much, I think. So use lots of zest, you still get that lovely lemony, zesty flavor. A little bit more parsley. No, eat your greens. Pinch of salt, some pepper, then just give it a mix. Now, it would kind of defeat the purpose of the whole point of the video, but you could kind of make like a labneh out of the yogurt first and then mix it through. So making a labneh, you basically hang your yogurt in a chucks or some cheesecloth in the fridge overnight, and it lets all the whey come out of it. You get like a really nice thick yogurt. I think that would work really well in here. However, I don't think I've ever done that in real life, so. Done, leave that aside. Let's get these things cooking. So we've got a big pan over sort of a medium-high heat. We want it to get hot, but we don't want it like raging hot. We want enough time to toast these on the outside nicely and cook the meat all the way through. So a good glug of olive oil, good glug, that's a terrible measurement, isn't it? 2-ish tablespoons of olive oil. And I do encourage you to use olive oil with this. Now, I know it's expensive, and by all means, if you don't have olive oil and it's midnight, don't not make this because of that, but it does add some flavor to it. Then once it's hot, we're gonna get these in here. And then I like to shove one of my presses on here, and you just get better contact with the bottom of the pan. So I've just turned that pan down to sort of medium. You see it's like we're getting lots of little whispers of smoke. We don't want this thing ripping hot, like I was saying. We kind of want to control the temperature here. We also will start moving these around the pan. It doesn't matter how good your pan is, it's gonna have hot spots. So what we're looking for, golden brown, nice color. Flip that over. Oh, see, hot spots, that's what I was talking about. So we're going to move that to the one with the least amount of colour so that they cook a bit more evenly. Make sure that pan's down nice and low. Okay, so when they start sizzling like that, it means that there's moisture coming out of the meat, and you don't want too much moisture coming out for the obvious reason of you don't want them to dry out. Also, that moisture will make your pitta soggy as soon as they're cooked on the inside, and you can tell that by how firm they are. That was like literally 4.5 minutes in the pan. It doesn't take long for that mince to cook through. We can be fancy, shove a lemon wedge on the side, you know, and if you're serving it to your friend or something, put a bit of this on the plate, bit of parsley for garnish. There you go. Delicious dinner in like literally 20 minutes, and that's generous. Super tasty, full of protein, really filling, and very Moorish. To be perfectly honest, normally I just eat them over the chopping board. One less dish to clean up. Oh, the worst part of my job, that joke never gets old. Lots of yogurt. It's delicious. Texture is great because you've got the crunchy pitta, and then that, you know, the minced meat in the middle, really nicely seasoned, creamy yogurt, and it's also a little bit spicy almost from all that garlic. It's delicious. It's super quick to pull together, and what is not to like about it? But next up, we're going to one of my all-time favorite pantry staples, tacos. Fish tacos. Now, I think the good thing about having some of these corn tortillas in your fridge is they last a long time, and you can do anything with them. One thing that I really like to do, and I thought about putting this in as a recipe, not really a recipe, toast one of these, peanut butter, job done, delicious. But we'll elevate it a little bit past that. We're gonna do blackened fish taco. You can do any fish you want. Piece of salmon. You could do the same thing with chicken. Just make sure it's not too thick because it will get nice and dark, which is kind of what we're after. Then we're going to do a real quick pickle with red cabbage and jalapeno. And then we're going to make like a little light salsa-y salad out of the avocado, some tomato, some white onion, and some coriander. So we're going to start with our pickle first to get that kind of marinating. Now we're only making 3 tacos, 1 portion, so we don't need heaps. When you start, finely cutting cabbage, it kind of goes quite a long way. So cut a piece off like that and make sure you hold it together nice and tight. If you wanted to save dishes, you could just run your knife through this, or if you've got a mandolin handy, you're going to get a kind of a better result for the mandolin. Maybe use the guard, unlike I do, because it hurts. So that's more than enough. Place that in a bowl. Now, since our mandolin's dirty, we're going to do the same with the jalapeno. Nice little thin slices. In they go. Pinch of salt, some red wine vinegar. Give that a really good mix, making sure that the salt's well distributed and the jalapeno is nicely mixed through the red cabbage. You're gonna see it's going to go a lovely, vibrant, purpley pink color. And you wanna do that first so it can sit there and marinate while we're getting everything else ready. So we're gonna make a little spice rub to do on our fish. So we've got some dried herbs, garlic powder, smoked paprika, and some cayenne pepper, some brown sugar. And the brown sugar is what's gonna make this blacken, and the sugar's caramelizing. Big pinch of salt, not a big pinch, sorry, a medium-sized pinch of salt. A little bit of black pepper. We're gonna give that a mix. With the brown sugar, make sure you're using the back of the spoon to break it up a bit, because it does have a tendency to clump together. We've got our fish. We're just gonna put a little bit of oil on it, just as a binder. That just helps that spice rub stick to it. We're gonna really heavily cover this fish in that spice rub. Pat it on there, and then we're gonna get the other sides. And the same spice rub will work really well with chicken. You do literally the same thing. I'd suggest using like chicken thigh or Maryland's. Make sure it's nicely covered on all sides. Leave that to one side and I'll just wash my hands. So we're gonna do a little salad as well. So we've got some little cherry tomatoes here. Now we've got 3 tacos in total, and I reckon you're gonna need about 1.5 tomatoes per taco. Into the bowl, just need a little bit of white onion, diced white onion. Now, Mexican food pretty much always uses white onion like this. However, if you don't have white onion, you have a stray spring onion in your fridge, feel free to use that instead. And that goes, so this is a shepherd avocado, which are in season in Australia at the moment. You get Hass avocados most of the year here. And then for about 2 months we get these, and some people get frustrated with them because they don't peel very easily and they're not the nicest ways to eat avocado for how Aussies eat avocados, which is basically on toast. But they do work well in salads. They are hard to peel sometimes though. This one's a little bit underripe, but for what we're doing, it's fine. And that goes, let's do half an avocado. And some coriander or cilantro. Just run your knife through it, stems and all. Little pinch of salt, a lime, juice of. Oh, that's a good juicy lime. Makes up for the rubbish avocado. Give it a nice mix. We'll leave that with our cabbage and we'll take this fish and get it cooking. So this fry pan is probably a bit of overkill for the size of piece of fish that we have, but you know, it was already here, so we're gonna use it. But you want a cast iron pan or even a stainless steel pan. The dish is called blackened. So don't come in the comments and be like, it's burned. It's supposed to be. It's not burnt, it's blackened. Get a bit of heat in your pan, skin side down, protein press on top. We have still got skin on it. We want it to get crispy because fish skin that's not crispy is not good in my opinion. If it's not gonna be crispy, I think you take it off before you cook it. But now you can see that the pan's smoking a bit. We're gonna turn that heat right down. We don't want it to be too hot. When we're cooking fish like this, you pretty much cook it all the way through on one side. It's not like cooking a steak where we're trying to have it nice and even, a good crust on both sides and it cooked through evenly. With fish, we just want the crust or the crispy skin on one side. So we cook it through pretty much all the way on one side. The last 30 seconds we'll flip it just to make sure that the outside of the flesh side is cooked through. We'll rest it and then we can carve it. Okay, so that's been like simmering under there nicely for a good 6 minutes now. You can see here, I don't know if you can see it, it's pretty hard to see because of the marinade, but I can feel that fish is cooked most of the way through. I'd say 70% cooked, which is what we're after. We're just gonna flip it over now and cook that other side. First person that comments, it's burnt, gets a prize. I'm literally gonna leave that there for like a minute in total. So I've probably got another 30 seconds and then I'm gonna pull it out. Onto a resting tray. So we're gonna leave that element on, but get the pan off to the side. So we're gonna toast our tortillas. I like to do it straight over the flame. You gotta do it with your hands too. Authentic that way. All right, time to assemble. So what I'm gonna do is take this piece of fish and cut it into 3. So I'll cut it into 3 this way. I'm actually gonna flip it over. I find it easier to cut fish like this. If you try and cut through the flesh first, all the way down, and then push through that crispy skin. Stunning. So next we're gonna start with the pickled cabbage and jalapeno. Fish is cooked lovely. Tomatoes, avocado and onion. And there we go. Blackened fish tacos with a quick pickle of red cabbage, jalapeno, and a real simple avocado and tomato salsa. A little bit of extra lime for good luck. Let's see how these taste. It's delicious. It's spicy, it's vibrant from the lime and all that onion, and the sweetness from the blackened fish really helps as well. Kind of cuts to a lot of that spiciness. Texturally, it's great. It's really not that hard to pull off, and you can do it, if you don't have a piece of fish, you can do it with anything, piece of chicken. But the point is, have a pack of tortillas in your fridge at all times, because they'll get you out of a pinch more often than you know. But definitely try these, they're delicious.
Let me tell you a little bit more about Squarespace. If you've thought about creating a website to share your recipes or ideas but got stuck wondering where to start, Squarespace's new design intelligence is a game changer. Instead of starting at a blank page, you'll answer a few questions about what you want and it builds a completely personalized website tailored to your style. You can still tweak everything to make it your own, but you're starting from something that already looks great. And if you're thinking about turning your cooking into a side hustle by selling meal plans or recipe collections, Squarespace payments make it super simple too. You can set up everything in just a few clicks and start accepting payments straight away. Everything is managed in one place, which makes keeping track of your earnings much easier. And of course, their built-in SEO tools make it easy for people to find your site. With features like auto-generated sitemaps and customizable meta descriptions, you'll reach the right audience in no time. If you want to create your own site, whether it's for sharing recipes or starting a food business, then head to squarespace.com/AndyCooks for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code AndyCooks to save 10% off your first purchase. Now let's get back to the cooking.
So next up, this is my roast chicken and salad dish I do when I'm eating a roast or wanting a roast chicken by myself. And it's not as hard as you think. So I'm gonna get this pan, just get some heat in it first of all. And then I'm just gonna drizzle some olive oil over this chicken. We're gonna get this in the oven as soon as we can, and then we'll get everything else ready in the meantime. Make sure it's well covered in oil. And we're gonna season it with salt. So this is a chicken Maryland, which is the drumstick and the thigh still on the bone. They're really affordable, which is great. And as we just found out, this is called a Maryland because of the state of Maryland, and it kind of resembles the state of Maryland in the US. I think it's also named after a dish called Maryland chicken, but the more you know. So we've got a bit too much heat in that pan now, but that's all right. Get some oil in there, a couple of tablespoons. In goes our chicken. Protein press on top and in the oven. There you go. So that oven is set to 180 degrees on fan force, and I reckon that's going to take about 30 minutes to cook all the way through. And because of that press on top, we're going to get lovely golden color on the skin. So while our chicken's in the oven, gives us plenty of time to get the rest of our stuff ready. First thing is a tin of beans. Do not underestimate the power of a tin of beans. Beans are delicious. They feed the world. There's a lot of places around the world where you eat beans. So the thing I love about beans is they're always ready to go, because cooking beans from raw or from like a dried bean can take a long time. So we're just gonna drain these, rinse them really well underwater, and then let them dry off a little bit. All right, we'll let those hang out for a bit. So the rest of our salad's super simple. Now, I love asparagus. What we're gonna do is just cut it up into little, well, I'm going to take the tops off because these parts kind of cook really fast. We'll use those as well. But then cut it into little discs. So like literally 1/2 centimeter thick all the way down. It'll all make sense why when it comes together. Leave that to one side. Then I'm just going to take a couple of garlic cloves, and I like to grate them over my bench scraper. Stops your board from stinking like garlic, especially just for 2 cloves, and it makes it easier to use when we're going to go to make our dressing. Leave that to one side. Then we've just got a small bunch of thyme here. This is pretty young thyme. I'm not going to bother picking this. I'm just going to run my knife through. Actually, that's probably too much. Just go half that amount. What's that? 10 sprigs, and just cut it up. I think when thyme's nice and young like that, it's really painful to pick. And I think you're kind of wasting your time. As long as you cut it up fine, you're not going to get that like woodiness that you'd get from a little bit older thyme. Push that to one side. And then we've got some endive here for a bit of greens. Say, I don't know, maybe a cupful, or maybe 2 cups full. And we're gonna keep this pretty chunky. We are gonna toss this through the beans and the asparagus. And then the only other stuff we need, a little bit of hot honey, some seeded mustard, and some butter. But we're gonna wait for our chicken to be finished cooking, then we'll rest it, and then we can make the rest of the salad. So that's only been in there for 26, 27 minutes. And it should be done. Oh yeah, that's 70 degrees at the bone. Not a problem at all. That'll rest up nicely. Put it on a rack to rest. Now you want some of that chicken with the flavor that's on the bottom of that pan, but not too much. Otherwise your sauce is gonna become a bit gnarly. Some of that's chicken fat, some of that's like juices off the meat. So I'd pour more out than you think into the tray underneath, because you can add it back if you need it. We also do want to add a little bit of butter. You could leave it out, but I kind of think the butter adds like a nice velvetiness. Just kind of stir that around a bit. And just be careful as well. This catches people out all the time. This is a fry pan that's been in the oven for half an hour. That handle is hot, so make sure you use a towel. So keep a towel in your hand or you'll regret it. So get the garlic in there, and also the asparagus straight away. We're just trying to saute this. We're not trying to like fry it really hard. We just want to get rid of the kind of the rawness from it. I'd also be careful about how much salt you add to this. You'll be surprised at how much salt's sort of still lingering in that pan. Again, you can add more, you can't take it out. And this is where we really start adding flavor. Good amount of black pepper, our fresh thyme, some good quality seeded mustard, about a tablespoon, decent amount. Mustard and chicken, match made in heaven. 1/2 tablespoon of hot honey. At this point, turn the heat off. I am gonna add a little bit more of that chicken juices from the pan, and go our beans. Because at this point, we're just trying to kind of warm stuff through. The beans don't need cooking. The asparagus is cooked now. It's all dressed already in the pan. Gonna add the juice of a lemon, cut through all that sweetness, and also let the sauce down a little bit. Yum. Okay, so we've got our endive here. We're just trying to wilt this. We don't want to like cook it. We're just trying to wilt it. So put that in the pan and stir it through carefully. All right, super simple plating here. In the plate, we've got carbs and all the veggies. And it's kind of self-saucing as well. You can see in the bottom of that pan just how much sauce we've got on the bottom too, which we can kind of let accumulate there, and we'll pour it over the chicken at the end. On goes our roast chicken leg. Drizzle with the sauce. So there you go, roast chicken with a butter bean and asparagus salad. Almost looks good enough to eat, doesn't it? There's something truly delicious about a pan roasted piece of chicken. And I think people think, you know, a roast chicken needs to be for a family of 4. And don't get me wrong, I love a roast chicken, but doing it like this means you can do it for yourself or you and your partner. And you're kind of simplifying the sides too, right? You got tinned beans, which are delicious, a couple of veggies and a few pantry staples, and you've got what I think rivals any roast dinner. Delicious. This protein is one of my favorite proteins for a couple of reasons. It's delicious, it's low fat, so it's really good for you. But one of my favorite things about it is that you can get a bag of them in your freezer and you can pull out a handful. They defrost really quickly and there's lots of different things you can do with them. One of my favorite dishes from Chinese takeaway shops of all time is black bean sauce, like beef and black bean sauce. So I've always made prawn and black bean sauce when I'm kind of in a pinch. And shout out to my mate Nagi, who had a really cool recipe for beef and black bean sauce the other day. I took a little bit of inspiration from that. I think some of her techniques were really cool. And then some of it's also, you know, stuff that I do. So first things first, we need to soak our black beans. So these are salted black beans. You'll find them in like Chinese supermarkets and stuff, or Asian supermarkets. They're delicious. They taste salty, unsurprisingly. Little umami bombs. We're just going to cover those in a little bit of hot water just to let them kind of soften a bit, just enough to cover. And then while that's doing its thing, we're going to cut all our other things up, like any wok cooking or stir fries. You've got to make sure you're ready because it's all going to happen pretty quickly. 1 green capsicum, take the cheeks off and the bottom, and then we want kind of big triangles, roughly the same size as the prawn, I guess is a good way to describe that. Got spring onions here, just take the bottoms off. We're going to keep the white parts about 1 centimetre. So still have some bite. You don't want them to completely disappear. Put those aside. And then the green part, we'll cut finer and we'll toss through right at the end. On an angle, keep that to one side. It's the beauty of having a big board. So you can just keep your mise en place there. Garlic, I'm going to slice this today. You could mince it if you wanted to. Sometimes it's nice to kind of have like big pieces of garlic like that. It's also easier for cleanup because if you smash this onto your board, it requires a bit of extra scrubbing. Put that to the side. And then the ginger, we're kind of right at the tail end of the fresh ginger, or like the young ginger season. I'm gonna have like I guess that's a thumb-sized piece. My thumb-sized pieces are usually pretty big, but we'll take the knobbly bits off. Just scrape any of the kind of darker pieces off. When it's young like this, you don't need to stress too much about peeling it. But just like the garlic, I kind of want big pieces of ginger today. So put it on a flat surface, slice it nice and thin, and then slice it again. So you have like little kind of matchsticks. Push that to the side. So we've got our black beans, got our prawns, some Shaoxing cooking wine, light soy sauce, a little bit of oyster sauce. The only other thing, we've got a bit of sugar too, some cornstarch. So we need that to thicken our sauce. So we're gonna add that to a bowl along with about the same amount of warm water and give it a stir just to make a slurry. So wok on high heat. Look, and if you don't have a wok, you can just use a fry pan. Now it's not the same. You should use a wok. You should have a wok because they're not that expensive. But if you don't have one, don't stress, just use a frying pan. Neutral flavored oil. I'm using peanut in the bottom of your wok. Spread it all around. Just you kind of like need to season a wok every time you use it effectively. So make sure the oil hits all the sides. A little bit more oil than that. First in, casting. When we're using a wok, the heat should be concentrated in the bottom, right? And when people say wok, hey, it actually means breadth of the wok. So that's kind of when you toss it like this and you're getting all this char happening on the outside. Now it's really hard to replicate in a domestic kitchen. So yes, it's great to be able to have it, but don't stress too much. Now we're gonna add the spring onions and we're gonna get our prawns in there. The other trick is when you're working on a wok at home, try not to lift it off the heat because you're gonna lose a lot of that heat pretty quickly. You know, leave a little bit more time between each ingredient than you would in like a Chinese restaurant. And that's because you want the temperature of the wok to come back up. All the temperatures come out because you've added something cold. Now the ginger goes in and the garlic, our black beans, a little bit of sugar, half a teaspoon, not that much at all. The Shaoxing wine, light soya, and our oyster sauce. Stir that through so it's all lovely and incorporated. You see these prawns aren't too far off being cooked, which is what we're looking for. I am going to add a little bit more soy sauce. We want this fairly saucy. So if we get to the point where we're like, it could be more sauce there, I reserve some of the water that we soaked the black beans in. I'm just gonna add that to it, and then we need to thicken that. So that's where our cornstarch slurry, that's a hard tongue twister, comes in. In that goes, stir that through. Add some more water if it gets too kind of sticky. You want a nice shiny sauce. You don't want a really gluggy sauce. You also want lots of sauce, I think. All right, pretty happy with that. Finally, the spring onion greens, heat off. So then to serve, I'm just gonna quickly stir those spring onion greens through. I've got some jasmine rice here, steamed jasmine rice on the prawns go. Get all that lovely luscious sauce and all the other aromats on there. There you go. Prawns and black bean sauce. All the work in that dish is done before you start cooking it. You saw how fast that was to cook. Literally 4 or 5 minutes in the wok and you're done. As long as you've got some rice ready to go, happy days. I love black bean sauce. It's delicious. Salty, sweet, full of umami, and those prawns carry it so well. And the fact it can be from your freezer to on your plate in like 30 minutes is an absolute winner. Yum. I even surprise myself sometimes. Amatriciana. I've practiced that word so many times and it's really hard to say it without sounding like you're taking the mickey and like putting an accent on. Amatriciana. I think that's correct pronunciation. It's a spaghetti with a sauce based around this delicious piece of meat, guanciale, another great pantry staple. Now, I know what you're thinking, come on Andy, we don't have guanciale in our fridge. The reason why it's a great pantry staple is because it doesn't really go off. Buy a piece, put it in your fridge, it'll last months. If you don't have guanciale and you still want to make this, then like some pancetta or some kind of smoky bacon. But it's pretty, if you live in a metropolitan city now, you can get your hands on guanciale. I get if you live in regional Australia or regional US. Guanciale, a little bit of garlic, some chili flakes, some pecorino, some good quality tinned tomatoes, and a little bit of white wine. There's not much here that's fresh that can go off, so there's no reason that you can't have this stuff ready to go. So first up, we just want some guanciale. So take up your piece that you're going to use. This is the fat. So guanciale is pig jowl, so the cured pig jowl. You do need to take the skin off because it's too tough to eat. You can save this though, and if you're doing like bolognese sauce or like a ragu or something, put that in there. It's got full of flavor. But with the rest of it, we're just going to dice it up. The only other thing that we really need to do on the board is we're just going to crush this garlic, just like that. We're not going to cut it or anything like that. We're just going to do that. So I've got a big pot full of salted water, and I've got about 150, 200 grams if you're really hungry of spaghetti. I'm going to get that in there and get that cooking. Just going to move this to this other hob. Let that do its thing. Got a fry pan over a high heat. We don't need heaps of oil because this guanciale is going to render a lot of fat, but like half a tablespoon just to get things started. In with the guanciale. The pan doesn't need to be ripping hot as well when you put the guanciale in there. And what that does is just brings the temperature up slightly. What we're trying to do is render this fat out as well as crisp up the outside of the fleshy parts of the guanciale. So start in a cold, medium pan, keep it moving around. And by doing that, it'll just make it'll kind of render more evenly and it'll color more evenly too. Once your spaghetti starts to soften, it's really important that you keep mixing it. If you don't mix it, you've got a chance of it sticks together. It'll also cook more unevenly. It's not really more unevenly, it'll just cook unevenly. I'm going to turn that temperature down. That pan's getting a bit hot. It's not burning or anything, but it's not giving a chance for that fat to render before the meat part is starting to crisp up. So control your temperature here. We also, all this lovely fond is good. We want that fond, but you don't want it to burn. If you've made a mistake and your pan's still a bit hot, just add a little bit of water in there to kind of bring the temperature down to the pan. So I can see my fond's like a nice color, but I don't want it to get any darker. So I just got a little spoonful of water. Instantly cleans that bottom of that pan off, and we can continue to render that guanciale down a bit more. So we're happy with that. We're gonna add our chili flakes, as much or as little as you like. I don't like too much chili when I'm cooking Italian food especially, because I feel like you kind of take away from, you know, the subtle nuances of like the guanciale and stuff like that if there's too much heat, but a little bit is really nice in there. I also added those 2 little pieces of crushed garlic, and we're just going to kind of move that around the pan for 30 seconds, just for that garlic to open up and start releasing some of its oil. It smells good, tell you what. Cured pork and garlic, what's not to like about that? Next we go with our white wine. Make sure you're using a wooden spoon to scrape up all that fond, and we want that to reduce by at least 2/3 before we add our tomatoes. All right, so our wine's reduced by quite a lot, which is great. We don't want it to completely reduce, so I'm gonna add our tomatoes, and I just put a little bit of water in that can, and that's for no other reason other than I don't want to waste any of that tomato goodness. Break up our tomatoes. I'm gonna cook those out. Use the back of your spoon to break the tomatoes up. You know, it's a pretty quick sauce, so we don't have heaps of time to, you know, for the heat to really break them down. So it's kind of, it's not important, but it's good to use the back of your spoon to break them up so you don't end up with big pieces of tomato. Bring that to a simmer. I'm gonna give it a little season with salt, not too much at this point, because that guanciale is pretty salty, but we do need to season those tomatoes. Let those tomatoes cook out for 4 or 5 minutes, then we'll check our pasta, see how it's going. So we've got some pecorino here, delicious cheese, I love it. We're just gonna grate some that we're gonna toss through our pasta. We'll grate a bit more over the top once it's served. This will really bring it all together. It should kind of emulsify through the sauce, make it lovely and rich. Sauce is looking good. It's actually a lot of sauce for one portion. I really struggle with having tinned tomatoes left over. I don't know why, it just kind of freaks me out for some reason. So I'd rather make a sauce like this and then kind of pull some out if you wanted to and save it. It would actually freeze pretty well. Don't let, you know, someone's not might yell at me for that, but I think that sauce would freeze pretty well. But I'd rather do that, make the sauce, rather than have half a tin of tomatoes in my fridge that I know reality is probably gonna go in the bin in a week when I kind of find it again. We'll just check our pasta. I think that's pretty much ready. Best way to check if your pasta is cooked is to eat it. Good. I'm gonna turn the heat off. I am gonna just reserve some of the sauce. I probably won't need all that amount, so pull half of it out. In goes our pasta. Don't stress about letting it drain off. A bit of that pasta water will help. That starchy water kind of helps it get all homogeneous and lovely. Toss the sauce through the pasta. Get the heat back on, just so that it just helps with the emulsification. Add our cheese. Once your cheese is nicely kind of stirred through it, it's time to serve. Plate it up, big plate of pasta. I did a video once about portioning of pasta and everyone got really mad at me that I didn't make enough, so I reckon I've made too much this time. That's a put you to sleep size meal, that one. It's a lot of carbs, bulking. A little bit more cheese on top. Cheese is life. There you go, Amatriciana. Let's dig in and have a taste. I also got told off for twirling my pasta on my spoon. Apparently no one in Italy does that, but there was a good amount of debate in the comments that some people do twirl, some people don't. Let me know in the comments, do you use a spoon to twirl your pasta or you do it straight in the plate? It's rich, full of umami from those tomatoes, really nicely seasoned, great delicate porky flavor from the guanciale. What is not to like about that? So there it is, another 5 dishes that got me through nights cooking for myself when I didn't want to cook heaps and didn't want lots of dishes. If you want to build your repertoire of dishes for one, make sure you subscribe for the next time that this one comes around. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to let us know in the comments what one you're going to cook first. We'll see you next week for another recipe. Peace.